Hey everyone, it's Pastor Nate. It's May Day. I'm out in my backyard. It's a beautiful morning and the birds are chirping and the squirrels are moving, and I'm just grateful that you are watching this video. I wanted to just bring you a couple of updates that are happening at the church, some things that you need to know. There is a lot of information in this week's email, so make sure and take a look through that. There are some different ways that we can connect with each other, so it's really important that you read through the weekly emails. We this Sunday are going to have online communion. Now, if you'll recall, we did this last month. We typically do communion the first Sunday of every month, and even though we couldn't be together on this first Sunday to pass the communion elements and partake in that together and be in one place, we can still do this at home. So it's important that you don't go out and run and grab a little thing of grape juice and crackers, and I want you just to use whatever you have at your house. Last month we had people send in pictures of crackers and tortillas and different ways that they celebrated communion. See, the elements of communion, the broken body of Jesus, the shed blood, that's what they are. They're just elements. They just represent certain things. So use whatever you have at home. You may be surprised what I used this Sunday in the sanctuary. And Pastor Walter will be there helping me, so I'm looking forward to that time. So I want you to set your table and get those elements that you do have ready to go on Sunday. And towards the end of the service, we will do communion together. And also, please send me your photos of your table and what you used and how you set it up. It was so neat to be able to see how everyone was participating. See, communion now is much like the early church, just in a very digital way. The early church had to do communion in individual homes, in individual places, but they were all doing it together. And we're able to do it together in a unique way today, but just in a digital format. And we continue this Sunday in our sermon series, Christianese, with a new message, which is the Frozen Chosen. I had someone call me this week and they said, Pastor Nate, what's your sermon going to be about this Sunday? And I said, the Frozen Chosen. They go, what in the world is that? And this is exactly why we are doing this message series. So similar to last week, we will identify what that term is, where it came from, what does it mean, and can it be found in Scripture? And then also, how do we simplify that term and how do we apply it to our lives? I'm so grateful for so many of you who have decided to tune in week after week after week. Our viewership continues to grow. So thank you for inviting your friends and other family members to watch our worship services. It means that we're not alone and that we're together and we're able to worship in unique and different ways. So thank you for that. Now, switching gears. This week, probably more than I have in the past 8 Sundays or 8 weeks, I have received calls and messages about, Pastor Nate, when is the church going to, for lack of better terms, reopen? Now, what I want us to understand, and many of you have watched Governor Kelly's address last week, is that the stay-at-home orders are going to be a bit different, but they're going to be somewhat extended. So that means for us that for a little while longer, large church gatherings aren't going to be allowed, especially with the size of congregation that we worship with. So we, kind of thinking back, when I came back from vacation in Florida, decided to cancel worship service on March 15th due to the outbreak of COVID. And no, I didn't bring it with me from Florida. But I decided to cancel that along with a couple of other folks in those discussions. And I decided to cancel for that one particular Sunday. That following week, the Board of Ministries met to have intentional conversations about how we should do, what we should do as First Baptist Church following the CDC guidelines. At that time, you'll remember I sent out a letter on behalf of the Board of Ministries that we would suspend worship in a traditional fashion in a building like we have known it for a period of 8 weeks. And that 8-week period of time it comes due on May 10th, and our hope was that we would be able to worship together. COVID-19 has impacted a lot of us in many different ways. I am so ready to be able to see each one of you. I'm even ready to get a haircut. As you probably noticed, my hair keeps growing and growing each and every week, and who knows when we're able to meet back together what it will look like. But we're all ready to be done, and we're all ready to get this over with. But our job as a church is to make sure that when we are able to have a large church gathering, that we are doing so in a time where it is very safe for all of those who are involved. We've already made some provisions and purchased some items so that when you do come back, that you are safe. So what does the process look like now for churches who are deciding to reopen, and especially First Baptist? We are going to meet, the Risk Management Committee is going to meet in person and also online this next Tuesday. And we're going to begin to have conversations about what it looks like when we re-enter the physical building of the church. So I want us to think about these terms: re-entry and reopening. We've never closed down our church. I am so extremely proud to be the lead pastor of this church for many different reasons, but one reason in particular right now that I am so proud to be a lead pastor is because your staff have done a phenomenal job navigating uncharted territory during this time. It took a lot of creative thinking and different ideas and shifting things that we have traditionally done for years and years to be able to make Sunday school work and youth group and children's activities and children's story times and weekly emails and making sure that we're able to connect and see if people need things or if they don't need things and how they're doing through all of this, and providing pastoral care. You just name the list, and it has taken creative thinking to figure out how all of that works. And the staff that I have the privilege of working with does a great job of creative thinking, implementing new ideas, even though they may be difficult to implement. And they are working now during these past few weeks probably harder than I have ever seen them before. So the term reopening doesn't really excite me, because as a church, we have continued to operate in a different fashion and still do great ministry. What I do like, the term that I do like, is re-enter. There's going to be a time, and I'm not sure when that time is, when we will re-enter into the physical building. And that will look in a specific way for First Baptist Church of Topeka. And what I want you to understand is our ministry context. And what I mean by that is where we're at, the people that we have in our building, the building size that we have, the ministries, the programs, all of that involves a ministry context is different than all the other 200 and some odd churches that are American Baptist in the state of Kansas. And our church is different in a ministry context than any other church in Topeka. And some churches are going to choose to do certain things that First Baptist Church of Topeka is going to choose either not to do, or vice versa. And so it's important for us to make informed decisions based on what we know, the programming that we have, the size of congregation that worships with us, and our folks. So what does that look like in terms of process? Next week, as I've already said, the Risk Management Committee is going to meet. I think that you can be on the lookout for an email or a text alert, or maybe something posted on our Facebook page. It'll probably be all three of those. That will sort of outline at least where we're at this point. It may not be super specific, as I know many of us want it to be, but we're sort of following along as the target continues to move. So I'm glad that each of you are understanding, and I am glad that we at least have ways that we're able to connect now. I imagine the early church being scattered after the resurrection of Jesus, and they weren't able to record videos or have a Zoom meeting or have online worship. And so it was probably much more challenging for them at that time when they were scattered to continue their ministry programming than it is now. So I'm really grateful to God that we have the opportunities that we do. So I hope that each of you are doing well. Make sure to be on the lookout for an email or a communication of some sort from our office this next week that kind of talks about what risk management has decided for this period of time. And we'll continue to have intentional conversations, so when we do and we are able to re-enter the physical building, that we're doing so in a very safe way, the best possible safe way that we can. And I hope to see you this Sunday online, live stream, as we celebrate communion together and we continue in our message series, Christianese, talking about the frozen chosen. I'll see you then.